Crime and Punishment, Dostoevsky, one of the most well-known Russian novelists, probably one of the most well-known Russian novels ever written. Something I've put off for a very, very long time and turned out to be one of the most powerful books I ever read, one of the most necessary books I ever read, and probably at the top of books that I've read this year. This isn't the first time I tried to get into Dostoevsky. I tried a long time ago with his novel, The Gambler. I hated it. It was so boring. The book is like 150 pages, and out of spite, I quit the book with 20 pages left. I honestly couldn't stand it. It bored me to death. There are several books in my life that came across at the exact right time. Crime and Punishment really impacted me because of what I was going through in my day-to-day life and how the protagonist of the novel dealt with those situations and the consequences of those situations. This book centers around the main character who goes by the name of Raskolnikov. Raskolnikov doesn't have a lot of money. He's hard up, he's having a rough time in his life, and he needs just that one opportunity. He's clawing at this one thing. If he could just get this one next step, then he'll be good from then out. He'll be able to get himself back on his feet and he'll be in a good spot. From the beginning, we get the sense from Raskolnikov that happiness is on the other side of something. Somebody else is preventing him from fulfilling some need that he has inside, and all of those pressures are external to him. Raskolnikov doesn't seem to look inward that much in the beginning, at least in terms of what is at the root of his problems, what is at the root of his misery, what is causing all of this anguish in his life. Instead, he is inside his own mind, placing that blame on other things, and it's kind of creating this recursive hatred that kind of snowballs in his mind. And there's a lot of spite, there's a lot of resentment. Everybody's getting in the way of his happiness except him. It is not his fault. So what does Raskolnikov do to remedy this? He needs money, but he cannot work. So what he does is he takes some cherished family heirlooms and he brings them to a pawnbroker. Now, unfortunately, those negotiations don't go so well. Raskolnikov thinks that these things are very valuable. He thinks he can get a certain sum of money for them. And of course, the pawnbroker is having none of that. She really doesn't care. She gives him a pittance for his belongings. She doesn't care if he thinks that they're worth more. That's all she'll give him and send him back into the streets. This is the straw that breaks Raskolnikov's back. Leading up to this point, there seems to be lots of little things that are kind of picking away at Raskolnikov's brain, really torturing his mindset, really kind of getting in there, ruining any chance he has at peace of mind, at any semblance of happiness whatsoever. And now that the pawnbroker has kind of denied him some sense of dignity, and she doesn't care what he wants, it doesn't really concern her. And really, it doesn't have to. However, this creates a target for all that spite. It creates a single entity for Raskolnikov to focus all that resentment on. And because Raskolnikov now has this focus, all that spite, all that resentment starts churning in his head. He starts working it over and over, and it starts getting stronger. It starts taking form. So of course, Raskolnikov can't take it anymore, and he finally does it. He acts on these impulses. It happens fairly early in the book, and what the book is really about is the punishment, and the fact that the punishment isn't doled out by a criminal justice system. The punishment is internal. The same headspace that tried to justify his ability to murder somebody is now turning back on him and creating its own punishment. Raskolnikov goes on to get incredibly sick. He starts seeing apparitions, starts seeing visions, having crazy dreams. His friends are making things worse. The police are playing games with him, playing head games with him, which cause him to spiral more out of control. This entire time, he's holding on to this secret and doesn't want to let it go. And the funny thing is that while he's holding on to this secret, other things are happening. He's becoming angry at himself for not having executed the murder in a way that shouldn't make him feel guilty. He's basically mad at himself for feeling bad. In Raskolnikov's mind, if you're a great man, you are permitted to do heinous things in the name of greatness. That is the only way that greatness ever happens. Average people don't achieve greatness because average people never think to take the unthinkable step. And since Raskolnikov is stricken with such grief, such mental anguish, he actually sees himself as a lesser person for it. Now, I know everybody is probably super sick and tired of hearing about COVID-19, but the reason why this book really resonated with me was because I felt like Raskolnikov. Way less violent, but I sympathized with him greatly. the municipality that my business is in decided to be significantly more strict than every other one, including cities that were vastly more populated than ours. And it was one individual who I dealt with over and over again who was holding me back from being able to work, from being able to make a living. I lost a ton of money. I still am. He simply did not care. My plight was none of his concern. Now, let's just clear the air right away. I wasn't having any homicidal thoughts. However, I was incredibly resentful. So resentful to this one individual. And I just happened to be reading Crime and Punishment at the time. So while I was going through this resentment, I was simultaneously reading about Raskolnikov's buildup, his actual act, the catharsis of that act, the horror of that act, and then the consequences of that act to follow. And it was really in those consequences that not only did we pick apart some really, really interesting ideas, but I also understood the mind on the other side of giving into that temptation. It doesn't really matter that it was a murder. What matters here is the acting on the impulse that has killed off some semblance of the human soul. Raskolnikov is a fundamentally different person before the act than he is after the act. In some ways, the act revealed who Raskolnikov really was, but in other ways, it just completely destroyed who he had built himself up to be. And it wasn't the act itself, it was the snowballing effect of this resentment. It was the externalization of problems. It was the focus on a single individual as the gatekeeper to all happiness, to all potential, to all possibility. At the end of the day, you don't need Dostoevsky to tell you not to hurt other people, obviously. And I didn't either. It's something you're going through, it's something you already know, but when somebody else can put it in a way that just clicks, just helps you get through, speaks to you in the way you need to be spoken to at the right time with the right words in a way that really resonates. It's that really, really awesome moment where you feel like the author is talking specifically to you. And I think one of the mistakes from a lot of people that don't read fiction is that they miss out on these opportunities. Nonfiction is fantastic, but a lot of the time it lacks the ability to recontextualize our real life in a way that speaks to the soul instead of simply to the mind. Now, I am so happy I picked up this book. I'm so happy I worked my way through it. It is a difficult book to read. If you're looking for a super fun book, this is not the one for you. If you're looking for a deep character study, if you're looking for a lot of psychology, if you're looking for that particular flavor of grim that the Russians are oh so good at, Crime and Punishment might be the book for you. Guys, thank you so much for watching this review. Again, if you could hit the like button, hit the subscribe, it would help me out a great deal. If you have any books you would like me to review, please let me know, and I will see you guys on the next video.